Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mack Story.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. Today, we're on part 18, chapter 18 from my book, Blue Collar Leadership and Supervision, as we continue diving into this book and this 30-part series. So today, I'm excited to talk to you about 7 reasons to ask your team questions. And you see, the best leaders ask the most questions. They intentionally choose to lead with questions. One thing I always say is high-impact leaders lead with questions instead of directions. Low-impact leaders love leading with directions. They like telling everyone what to do, but they don't get a lot of buy-in, and there's a lot of resistance, a lot of frustration, low engagement, that sort of stuff. If you're leading other people as a formal authority leader, questions can become your best friend. And also as a parent, remember everything I share with you guys also applies at home as much as it does at work. And also, again, this book is all about how to lead very well with a formal authority position. But if you're out there and you're interacting with people every day, you're influencing people. These same principles apply to you. So I want to share with you a quote from Harry Allen Overstreet. He says, "The very essence of all power to influence lies in getting the other person to participate." The very essence of all power to influence lies in getting the other person to participate. And that's what happens. Soon as you ask a question, you've transferred influence. And influence is an invitation for the other person to get involved. And what I'm saying there is when you give someone else influence, you're inviting them to become involved in the process. You're inviting them to take ownership for a solution or for the way forward. So I want to talk to you about these 7 reasons that you should ask your team questions. Number 1 reason is to show them respect. As a leader, when you ask other people a question, you're showing them respect. And again, you don't have to be a formal authority leader. If I'm interacting with anybody and I ask them a question, I'm demonstrating respect for that person's opinion. But again, the context I'm talking about in this 30-part series is if you're a formal authority leader, how do you unleash your people's potential? So when you show them respect, you can do that simply by asking the question, because it lets them know they matter and it shows their opinions are valued and appreciated. When you ask questions and you demonstrate respect, it builds trust into the relationship. And it's also a key way that a leader can model teamwork. As soon as the leader asks a question, it's not all about the leader anymore. Now it's about the team. You with me? Asking questions demonstrates respect. The second reason to ask your team questions is to transfer influence to them. I touched on that a little bit, but asking questions allows them to influence the leader. So if you're the leader or you're the parent, as soon as you ask your team member or a child a question, you're allowing them to influence you. So it's helpful if they know, if they've been developed and they understand when they get asked a question, it's my time to shine. It's my time to leverage my influence. A lot of times people are angry because they don't have any influence. But a lot of the reason they may not have influence is how they answer questions. They may not have put any thought into it. They may not have prepared for it. If you're leading a team, growing and developing your team intentionally, to help them think at a higher level, it's going to help them give better answers. And as they give better answers, they become better leaders. And as they become better leaders, they take more responsibility. And they get easier to lead. And your life as a leader gets easier. But it's because you're becoming part of a leadership team, not just a leader of a team. Big difference. So transfer and influence allows them to feel understood, which creates and generates more buy-in from them. When the team feels understood, they're far more likely to support the path forward. The third reason you should ask your team questions is to give them a voice. A lot of times, team members don't have a voice. If they got a dictatorial, overbearing boss, a lot of times they don't have a voice. They just get told what to do. Those kind of people are not very engaged. So to give them a voice, ask them questions. Asking questions allows the team to be involved in finding the solution. It allows them to have ownership in the process and the decision. When they get to provide the solution, they're much more bought in to making sure it works. When you just tell them what they need to do and they believe they need to be doing something else, they may not be quite as gung-ho about making it happen and making it work. And if they're led poorly by their leader, a lot of times people want to see the leader fail, so they don't offer suggestions because they don't have a voice. Andy Stanley says it best. Leaders who don't listen often find themselves surrounded by people who have nothing to say. So I'm saying go beyond listening and start asking questions. And then listen after you ask the question. Be more intentional about listening because you've asked them a question. The fourth reason to ask your team questions is to learn how they think. A lot of leaders are busy. They don't take time to ask a lot of questions. Again, they do a lot of directing. Those are low-impact leaders. High-impact leaders, they want to know how their team thinks. Not just one person on the team or two people on the team. They want to know how the entire team thinks. And sometimes they may want to shape that thinking. And the best way to do it is to ask questions. You can learn how they think, and then you can shape how they think with a question. So asking questions is a valuable tool because it allows the leader to learn how each individual thinks. It allows the leader to learn which team members are ready and want to lead, which team members maybe can be given more autonomy to go and do their own thing because it's in alignment with what the leader wants. And then it also allows the leader to figure out who needs maybe more coaching and more mentoring. And the leader may need to do that, or the leader may get a person on the team to do that. It just depends. And when I was leading Lean, and remember if you know my story, between 2005 and 2012, I basically led 11,000 hours of process improvement, over hundreds of Kaizen events, organizational change, cultural transformation, and I asked questions all the time. And it was because I wanted to learn how the people were thinking. Not only how they were thinking, but also what they were thinking. Because I had to lead these people through all types of change and transformation. And a lot of times they didn't want to go. And I was not a dictator. I was leading them. So I had to know how they were thinking and what they were thinking about. And there was no better way for me than asking questions. And I taught everybody to ask questions. So the fifth reason to ask your team questions, and you can see how these stack up, but the fifth reason is to engage them in the process. To engage them in the process. Asking questions allows the leader to share the responsibility and engages the team. It gets team members involved who may otherwise keep their opinions to themselves, and it empowers the team to act instead of be acted upon. So if you want to engage your team, Questions, question, question, question. And remember how I started this off. High impact leaders lead with questions instead of directions. The sixth reason to ask your team questions: to uncover hidden concerns. Asking questions allows team members to express concerns that they may have otherwise remained, that may have otherwise remained unknown. The leader may have not known that the team had concerns. Again, if a leader's just giving directions, most of the time, those team members don't have a lot to say. They listen, and then they carry out whatever job they have to do. And a lot of times they don't do it the way the leader wants. They just want to get paid. They don't like the leader. The leader maybe don't like the team sometimes. So when that's going on, there's a lack of communication. I've heard that throughout my career, lack of communication. Most of the time, that's because the two parties don't really care that much for each other. And a lot of times they hate each other. Sometimes the leader hates team members. Sometimes team members hate the leader. And if you've been out there working very long in the blue collar space, you know there's a lot of truth in that statement. But even if there's a good relationship between the leader and the team, a lot of times the team will not just willingly talk about their concerns. They just don't feel comfortable, especially if they're a new member, or maybe they're just new to the workforce. They hadn't been out of high school long, or maybe hadn't been out of technical college, that sort of thing, or a 4-year college, and now they're out there in the workspace. A lot of times people are quiet. Questions give them a voice. Remember, that was reason number 3, was to give them a voice. But when they get that voice, the question leads to uncovering hidden concerns. And a lot of times their concerns may be very valid. It could be a concern that you didn't even think of because you're not so close to the issue. And maybe you need to know it, but unless you ask questions, you may not know it. So the 7th reason to ask your team questions is what I just touched on: to develop a better solution. Asking questions creates a synergistic environment which allows the leader to think with many minds instead of just one. It helps all team members to realize that none of them is as smart as all of them. The team needs to know that, and the leader needs to know that. The leader also needs to know none of them is as smart, is as innovative as all of them. Or the way that I say it most of the time, none of us is as smart as all of us. None of us is as strong as all of us. None of us is as innovative as all of us. And what I'm saying is, when we work together, we can come up with a better solution. That's synergy. You've heard me talk about the 7 habits a lot. And habit 6 is synergy. Synergy means the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. That's what happens when you ask your team questions. So a quick run through of those 7 reasons to ask your team questions: to show them respect, to transfer influence to them, to give them a voice, to learn how they think, to engage them in the process, to uncover hidden concerns, and to develop a better solution. You know, some people assume we stumble onto our success, but the path of discovery is paved with interesting questions. I want to share a little story right here, and it's about how we develop as leaders, and how others develop as leaders. Kind of where does it start? So, a British author, Leonard Ravenhill, told the story of a group of tourists visiting a picturesque village where they saw an old man sitting by a fence. In a rather patronizing way, one of the visitors asked, "Were any great men born in this village?" Without looking up, the old man replied, "No, only babies. Only babies. No great men were born." The great men were developed. They grew into their greatness. And as a leader, that's what I'm trying to help you do with this 30-part series. How to lead with authentic influence instead of artificial influence that comes with your position, title, rank, authority, all that stuff. You can get something done with that, but you can't get near as much done with that as you can authentic influence. And again, one way to grow and develop your authentic influence is to ask others questions. I hope you enjoyed this lesson on leading with questions today. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mack Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mack's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.